Hi, this is Neil here, and welcome back to SewTechnical's Repair Workshop. Today we'll be discussing basic adjustments for the models 530 Bernina through the 930 sewing machines. We're going to be using model 830 machine here to demonstrate these adjustments, but we're going to be adding a few different variants of these adjustments to include the 530 machine as well as the 930. We will begin with the 5 needle positions. First of all, 0 or O position in the machine. Then we have needle position front to back. The third one is needle position laterally. Laterally in the stitch plate using the needle position knob. The fourth needle position is the needle position of zigzag. The fifth needle position has to do with the ornamental patterns. It's important to know that these adjustments must be done in order, similar to building a house, where the most important component in that home building is an accurate foundation to which all other components of that structure are relative. Failure to do this will result in a machine that doesn't run, or a machine that doesn't run well, or frustration, or a really bad customer review. We always start with a new needle. We can't use a used needle, and you must use a high quality needle. We use a size 90. On this machine, we're starting with the needle plate because all of the adjustments are adjusted in the machine are relative to the needle plate. If the needle positions on the needle plate are incorrect, the adjustments that you make after that fact are all going to be incorrect. So we start here as the foundation for our adjustment process. The first needle position is called O position or 0 needle position, which is to say that when we're setting up a machine that we have to have a center needle position to begin with. This adjustment is important, especially for a building machine where these stitch mechanism parts had to be removed due to cleaning of oil varnishes. I might add that under normal conditions, this adjustment will be 99% correct. Just a quick look at this needle position will do. If an adjustment is necessary, we will want to center the rocker shaft with this crank. Yes, in order to make the adjustment, we're going to need to remove the cover. The shaft that the stitch width mechanism pivots on has a hole all the way through. We have a tool, we call it a hat pin, and of course it's a long tool with a conical end. We will want to insert the hat pin all the way through till it contacts the needle position strap, which is the center point of this crank. As you can see, the crank can can move, but the strap doesn't. If we have to make an adjustment, we will want to make sure that the needle position knob is at center, and then we'll want to use a 5.5 millimeter wrench on this nut and hold it while loosening the 6 millimeter nut on the opposite side. The straps then will be able to slide back and forth with the hat pin inserted, fitting into the center of this strap. Everything will be set at 0. We can retighten the screws. The second needle position is called needle position front to back. This is to say that when the needle eye is just below the needle plate, the needle should be equidistant in the needle plate slot from front to back. Set the machine for straight stitch sewing. If the needle is found to be equidistant in the needle plate, go on to the next adjustment. If a correction is necessary, first we're going to correct the pivot axle and pivot support of the needle bar frame. Set the zigzag and auto transmission support lever to the neutral position. Set the stitch width dial to 4. In this case, the needle bar frame should swing easily left and right. Loosen the fixing screws as shown on the pivot support. And a slight adjustment can be made in the needle plate. When you're finished, tighten the screw. The pivot axle in the needle bar frame should slide axially and freely, but only with limited movement. If this is not possible, the pivot axle has seized in the pivot bar support due to oil varnishing. This condition will require the removal of the pivot support or cleaning. This part cannot be cleaned in the machine. Trying to force the pivot axle out of the pivot support while in the machine can result in some serious damage to the machine alignments. If the freest position of the needle bar frame already exists and the needle is still not equidistant, correction is necessary by moving the upper arm frame and the free arm, or socle. The socle and the upper arm frame are screwed together with 4 6mm screws. One of them is accessible through the front of the machine here all the way down to the bottom. Then you have 2 other socket head cap screws, which are 6mm here. Loosen very slightly the 3 frame screws as shown. 2 of the screws are 6mm socket headed cap screws and 1 is a Philister head screw. Note: the frames have a basic alignment pin built in the frame corner nearest the motors. This allows the frames to be aligned by using a little pressure by bumping the frames on either the front or back sides of the machine. After the screws are tightened, make a visual check to make sure that you have equidistance of the needle in the stitch slot front to back. The machine can move slightly when the screws are tightened, so rechecking is very important. The third needle position is called the LCR adjustment, or left, center, right needle position in the needle plate. This refers to the needle position knob and its function of providing lateral positions left and right. The needle position will be correct when we find equidistance on the far left side of the needle and needle plate, as well as the far right side. If a correction is necessary, set the stitch width to 0. Set the automatic cam position to 0, or the zigzag symbol. Set the zigzag auto transmission lever to the zigzag symbol. The 930 machine symbol will be 0. Switch the needle position knob to the left and gauge the distance between the corner radius of the stitch slot. Check the right side in the same manner and compare for equidistance. If equidistance is good, go to the next adjustment. If a correction is necessary, the machine should remain set up as previously described. The machine is fitted with an eccentric bolt, so that when we rotate this little pivot or bolt, we can cause the needle to move left or right. This is done by loosening slightly this screw at the base of the needle bar. We don't want to loosen it all the way up. This tool is constructed with teeth on one side, no teeth on the other side of the jaw. By inserting the tool on the eccentric bolt to cause the needle to move one way, or we can pull it in the opposite direction, this way, to cause the needle to move to the opposite direction in order to get equidistant in the needle plate. The needle position will be correct when the needle is equidistant from the left and right sides of the needle plate. Make sure that you retighten the screw finger tight when you're finished. You don't want to split the cast iron structure in the needle bar support. The fourth needle position is described as needle position of zigzag. Set the needle position knob to center and turn the stitch width dial to 4. Set the zigzag auto transmission support lever to the zigzag symbol. Check to see if the needle is equidistant in the needle plate on either sides, left or right, in the needle plate by turning the hand wheel backwards and forwards. If the needle is equidistant on either side in the needle plate, go to the next needle position adjustment. If a correction is necessary, loosen only slightly the fixing screw on the base of the stitch length crank. Resting my forearm on the end of the machine. This stabilizes my hand so that it can't move much. Then I can use my finger to guide the screwdriver into place, into the screw. By loosening this screw, then I can move back and forth the crank, making the adjustment of needle position, zigzag needle position in the needle plate. Make sure that you retighten the screw finger tight when you're finished. Check the adjustment by observing equidistance by eye or use sticky note paper as shown. Assuming that the needle position has been set properly, we'll turn the needle position knob 2 clicks to the left and prick the paper. Then we'll turn all the way to the right side of needle position and prick the paper. Then what we can do, if we can turn needle position back to center, we can turn the stitch width knob to 4, and we can check our placement. Make sure that the needle swinging from left to right is in the same holes. We can make very, very thin holes, very small holes, and you can see how accurate this machine is. It's a very high precision mechanism. So, if no further corrections necessary, continue the next needle position adjustment. The fifth needle position is called the needle position of the automatic cam device. In this case, the cam patterns vary in the cam stack, and only a few patterns will give us the far right and far left position. In the case of an 830 machine, I like to use stitch pattern number 13 because it's in the middle of the cam stack, and it will also give us the end of a pattern on this diamond shape, and then when the needle swings to the left, it's the beginning of that pattern, and we can easily find that. And then when we turn the hand wheel left and right, we can actually gauge that equidistance in the needle plate. We'll want to set the needle position knob to center. Set the stitch width dial to 4. Set the zigzag auto transmission support lever to the 1-20 symbol. Select the cam lever to 13 using the Model 830 cam patterns. With the 730 machine, the needle position, lateral, left and right, is made in a different place. And we're going to use the same cam as the 830, but you'll find that the cam is now number 12 on this machine. On the Bernina models 530 through the 930 sewing machines. Cam pattern vary so that only a few stitch patterns can be used out of the packet. Run or rotate the machine so that the pattern indicator is at the center marking, or in case this indicator has been changed by a repair attempt, watch for the direction change when the needle swings from the far right to the far left in the stitch slot. Now, check to see if the needle is equidistant in the needle plate on either sides, left or right, by turning the hand wheel back and forth. Again, the needle should be checked when the eye is just below the needle plate. If the needle is equidistant on either side, you are finished with the needle position in the machine. If a correction is necessary, the machine should remain set up as previously described. From the back of the machine, insert the Bernina eccentric tool into the stylus rocker support. Loosen very slightly the fixing screw. The eccentric tool can be turned by forcing the rocker mechanism's stylus or the cam tracer, thus moving the needle slightly left or right in the needle slot in the needle plate. Make sure that you retighten the screw finger tight when you're finished. It is important to know that the automatic device cannot be adjusted as accurately as the previous needle positions due to the many moving parts in that mechanism and their associated tolerance stack-ups. This adjustment should be made as closely as possible to the equidistant standard. Thanks for being with us this time. This completes the first part of the 10-point adjustment for the Bernina 830 through the 930 machines and the basic adjustments. These adjustments, as we mentioned, are the most important. So we hope that you'll look forward to seeing the follow-up adjustments to complete the basic adjustments of the Bernina series 530 through 930 sewing machines.